Oh, it's me. Welcome to another episode of Reasonable Doubt, brought to you by the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association at the Houston Media Source. I'm joined by HCCLA President and co-host Brent Mayer. Thanks for joining us, Brent.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for everyone who's going to be watching this really great special show that we've got tonight. I'm really excited about this. We've had a lot of things going on over the past couple of weeks, and we've got a really special guest here tonight, Jason Johnson, a fellow criminal defense attorney who is going to share a story about an ordeal that you have been through. But before we get to that, we need to talk. I think one of the things that's been on everyone's mind and has really been prevalent, not just in the local news, but really just took off nationally, is this story about this Army veteran, Gonzalo Leon, who's been accused of killing an 11-year-old Julian Guzman playing, according to the police investigation, Ding Dong Ditch. And I mean, you want to just talk about an absolute tragedy.
Oh, yeah.
But, for those of you that haven't really been seen the story or followed the story, Mr. Leon had allegedly shot this 11-year-old boy after him and his cousin had basically played, like we all, I think at some point we all played Ding Dong Ditch, right? You go, you ring the doorbell, you take off running, you expect to get a couple laughs, and just, you talk about just a tragic turn of events. According to the police, Leon stepped out of his home, shot at the boys. He was hit once, fell to the ground. He told his cousin that he couldn't feel his legs. He had to drag him away. He didn't die immediately. He was taken to the hospital. He passed away eventually, and that's when it turned into a homicide investigation. And then ultimately they arrested and charged Mr. Leon, and they've charged him with murder. But we've seen some pretty strong action in this particular case. The one of the things that we saw first and foremost is the prosecutors said, we're going to ask for $1 million bond in this case.
We also saw the elected District Attorney Sean Tier making public statements like the morning of the charges. Oh, yeah. So that's not a common thing that we see other than high-profile cases.
Sure. I mean, there's no question it's a high-profile case. And I can understand Sean wanting to get out in the media and, come across as I'm taking a tough stance here, but there's some things that I think that we need to talk about here that the public needs to know about, and I think it first starts with the fact that you have this $1 million bond set for Mr. Leon, who has never been in trouble with the law before.
He's a veteran, military veteran.
Military veteran, cooperated with the police the night of the shooting because of tensions in the neighborhood. Understandably, I think we've had clients in these situations where they need to move out and they need to go stay with someone because they're worried about retaliation, people coming back to their house and doing something. Right. And so he goes and stays at a hotel in LaPorte, and the prosecutors use that as a justification to hold them on $1 million bond. And I just, I know that, Judge DeToto, good judge, been a prosecutor, defense attorney, but I think to set a $1 million bond in this case, I think borders on oppression. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, judge in the 177th.
That's right.
Emily DeToto, yeah. $1 million bond is, remember, bond is two purposes and two purposes only: to secure the defendant's presence in court and to protect the community. And that second one gives judges a lot of latitude that we see, but the primary purpose of bond is to make sure someone shows up for court. And when you have somebody that doesn't have a track record of not showing up for court, and then especially a former military officer or personnel, they know how to follow orders. They're better equipped than maybe somebody like me to be given an order or directive in writing from a judge, and then they can follow it. I do agree. $1 million seems pretty high when you just need to make sure the person shows up for court and that they don't cause any more problems out in the community.
Yeah. I think we all know as lawyers.
Let me ask, is that what the state asked for? Did they ask for above that? And then the judge came down? They asked for $1 million, and then the judge set it right at what the state asked for?
Yeah, $1 million.
Gave them what they asked for. And again, it's written in the law. It's been the law in our state for hundreds of years that bail is not to be used as an instrument of oppression. And here's this individual who is presumed innocent at this point, right? I think people have already decided that he's guilty. How the hell do you shoot a young kid in the back and get away with it? And it's people are already coming to these conclusions, not understanding the importance of presuming him to be innocent. Wait to see what the investigation does. I think that that's one thing that been sort of overlooked here, is that this happened and he wasn't arrested and charged immediately. And
Well, there was some back and forth, wasn't there?
there was some back and
At least on
forth.
the early morning news, I heard there was detained, released, arrested.
I read that there was an issue with a witness being able to even positively identify him. And so there's all these different things that are taking place, but he's not running. He has no other history of posing a danger to anyone. And, he works, according to what was presented in court, he works at a restaurant, and he doesn't have the money to afford $1 million bond. So
Right.
setting $1 million bond is meant to basically say you're not going to get out on bond. And I think we all know, and we're going to talk about a personal experience of going through this, to hold someone who is presumed innocent in custody and then have to sit in jail for months, possibly years, the investigation unfolds. I mean, we don't know what happened out there that night. The fact of the matter is we don't know what the exact facts and circumstances were. And, another interesting thing is that, you talked about Sean Tier, making public statements in the media. I mean, he's already anticipating the defense.
He's
right?
trying to cut it off.
Yeah, and he's talking about, this is not a Castle Doctrine case. This is not a Castle Doctrine
There's
case.
no self-defense here. Yeah.
And you can see where he's going with this, but I think what the public...
Not trying to taint the jury panel. That's not what you're trying to say, right?
I get what he's trying to do, but I think what I think also needs to be highlighted in that case is, look, there's a lot more to the story, and the law can really affect and impact what ultimately happens in this case. Yes, he says Castle Doctrine doesn't apply. He says this is an 11-year-old boy. He wasn't armed. But what he's not talking about, and what the public doesn't normally know or hear about, is apparent danger, right?
Right.
And we all know, I think some of us, we've dealt with apparent danger defenses before, and we all know that just because a person doesn't arm doesn't mean that you can't use self-defense, right? We all know that if you reasonably believe that someone is armed, you don't wait for that person to pull out a gun if you feel like your life is in danger. Again, we don't know anything about the circumstances.
Well, and we see those justifiable shootings a lot, and like the wait to make decisions is whenever it's an officer-involved shooting.
Sure.
Right? And a lot of times those come back and they say, yeah, the person didn't have a gun, but they had something that maybe looked like a gun.
That's a great example. They do that very often. Even with also involved shootings, how they second grand jury. It's a lot of there's not prejudgment there. There's actually the presumption of innocence.
When it's a police officer.
When it's a police officer, exactly. That's what I mean.
They really do get it, and I think that's the main thing here. I mean, it could be a heinous murder, but it could not be, and that's what we want the public to emphasize about this case, as with any other case. Media gets a case like this, it goes national. People are, screaming bloody murder, not understanding that, look, there's a lot more that needs to be looked at here. And more importantly, he has a right to a trial. Sure. He has a right to be presumed innocent. His case has to be presented to a grand jury. And again, these are just things that are getting overlooked about this story.
Right. There's a procedure.
Now, it is indeed tragic. I mean, having kids of my own, I mean, I think we all know that that's, what a horrible set of circumstances. You wouldn't, I mean, again, I know I ding-dong ditched, let's see. Statute of limitations.
Yeah, you're good. You're safe.
Okay,
You're safe.
making sure. Yeah, I mean, I did it a number of times, and yeah, it's stupid, but you never expect something like that to happen.
Well,
it's just,
there's the tragedy levels abound in this story, but I think that we all also need to put guns down. You know, I always am reminded of that Natalie Portman line from Cold Mountain, where she says, "I wish all steel was, God removed all steel from this earth," you know, and as a gun owner, I don't have any in my home. They're all just like family heirlooms that have been passed down. I've had guns pulled on me a lot of times. I've never had a gun. I've never felt like I needed to have a gun on me for self-protection. I would be really angry, someone knocking on my door and running off. I'd be that guy, that angry white guy, get off my lawn, you know, but I gotta believe I wouldn't reach for a gun.
Yeah.
And a lot of situations, like we just need to all kind of take a deep breath when we're really angry and realize that what comes out of a gun is permanence. It's forever. And it's a very tragic situation. I was really disappointed that it was a veteran, because they're supposed to be trained and, we want to expect more. But I also, as a criminal defense attorney, I'm like, let's wait and hear. And I'm curious what all's out there, because yesterday I was getting my hair cut. I'm not thrilled with it, but my haircut lady was talking to me, and she was asking me, like, is that, you can't do that? If someone's kicking on your door, you can't shoot them? And then I was like, I haven't heard the kicking thing. So I don't know what all's kind of coming out, but that's the point. And we're going to kind of talk about that, something that really drives home about, the court of public opinion, holding off, waiting till you get the facts, and then a lot of times you realize there was no there.
Yeah. This is truly, you see the story and you see the news clips, and the story gets 3-4 minutes, and there's probably, just right now, there's probably 3 to 4 hours worth of information that has to be considered to really understand what took place and to decide, was this reasonable or was it not? Was it an unreasonable use of force, and he needs to be held accountable for that? The other thing I think about is, you got to think that this Mr. Leon, it's not like he's happy with what happened.
He's got to be devastated.
I know that for most cases where I've had involving self-defense, right, there's some animosity, right? Like, you put me in this circumstance where I had to use force to defend myself, but you got to think that he's sitting in the Harris County jail, just torn up inside, that he's taken not just another life, but a young child.
There's no way he stood at that front door or in the front yard or wherever he was, and I believe knew he was shooting an 11-year-old who was just committing the offense of ding dong ditch. By the way, you can tell where you're hearing it, because in the national news they'll call it ding dong dash. I never called it that, but
soda pop.
Yeah, exactly.
It's different from place to place.
But I gotta believe he didn't. Something else is going on.
Yeah.
There's a missing piece, or it's all righteous, the charge, and they'll take care of it. But that's what courts are for.
Yeah. And look, to be clear, we are not trying to say that this was justifiable. We're not trying to say that this is excusable and that he should be forgiven or anything else like that.
It's a terrible tragedy, an 11-year-old that died.
It's just about holding off. Don't jump to conclusions, because we can see what happens later on down the road. And I think that that's a good segue to talk to our next guest, Jason Johnson here.
Absolutely.
A man who has been through the fire, has been accused and was accused of a crime, and had to go through the criminal justice system, even though you, as a criminal defense lawyer, have fought for and defended people going through these battles in the courtroom. And so just a little bit of background for our viewers, in August of 2024, you were arrested and charged with engaging in criminal activity, with bringing a prohibited substance into a correctional facility, and tampering with a witness.
It was engaging in organized criminal activity. Did they charge anybody else?
No.
No. It's kind of tricky to do that by yourself, right? Anyway, sorry, Brent.
No, it's okay.
That's one thing I noted, that I was engaging in organized criminal activity. You usually have 2 or more people, but.
And it all surrounded, and what the media publicized is that you were smuggling drugs into the jail.
Right.
And then lo and behold, a month later, they're accusing you of possession of child pornography. And what an ordeal to go through.
Tampering with witness or tampering with evidence. I mean, they piled on you.
Drug dealing pedophile.
But represented by great lawyers, our our vice president of the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Vic Vidge, your good friend and another great lawyer, D'Angelo Lowe, fought, and you all were getting ready to go to trial, and last week, case dismissed.
Dismissed.
All of them.
All of them, every last one of them.
Tell us what it feels like, Jason, to finally be vindicated. You know, Vic early on did a great job going to the media and saying, look, he said, we believe Jason will be fully vindicated and that these charges are not going to stand. He said that a year ago.
He did.
When you were first charged.
He did.
And he hit the nail on the head. How's it feel to be vindicated, Jason?
Well, it helps. It helps. Like you mentioned, I had a hell of a lawyer, two hell of lawyers. Right? It hasn't really hit me yet because this has been a year ordeal, but it feels like a weight is off your shoulder. It really does.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, we know, but share with this. We really want to get your story out and let people know what it's like to go through being criminally charged and being arrested and having the prosecutors trying to, you know, tell us a little bit, first of all, how you got started as a criminal defense lawyer.
Well, I went to Howard Law School. I anticipated staying in D.C., but I actually came out of school during a recession in 2008. And the job that I thought I was going to have pretty much got pulled from me in D.C. And so I stayed with a girlfriend up there for a little bit, but I transitioned back home. And, you know, because I'm from Houston. And so transitioned home, ended up finding some contract work pretty long term and just stayed here. Eventually, I started making pretty decent money just hourly, but I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to, go practice. And so I eventually hung a shingle, started family law, just to keep the lights on, whatever came through the door. And then I remember one day after remediation, I was like, the hell with this. People are fighting over forks and knives. They used to love each other, and it doesn't make sense. So I went across the streets of the criminal building, and I think I sat in a trial or something like that. I'm like, I'm going to start doing this. And lo and behold, I became a criminal defense lawyer.
That's a great
Love it.
story.
Love it.
Yeah.
What, when was this that you started? When was this that you started doing this practice? Going down and starting to take criminal cases.
Criminal cases. So I believe that I really probably started the first one in about 2012. I really didn't settle in until about 2014, maybe 2013, 2014. I settled in.
So you've been doing this for a while.
Oh yeah.
And you get into it and you start. Are you doing any appointed work, or all of your clients retained, or what?
Every client has been retained.
Okay. And you're building a good reputation for yourself, obviously.
Thank you.
Were there any particular, you have any good war stories or good trial stories or good outcomes that you have that sort of stuck out in your mind that kind of fortified for you that this is what I want to be doing? I want to be fighting for people's liberty and to keep them from being locked up and convicted for crimes that they didn't commit. When was it is there any particular story that stands out in your mind that really made you feel like this is what I want to be doing?
Well, there's one recently, but that war story was something I'd already solidified that this is what I love, right? That happened early on, just fighting for people. Like even misdemeanor, you might have a misdemeanor possession of a controlled substance or a marijuana charge, right?
Yeah.
But you see how that can affect someone's life. Even, I remember a time when there was a misdemeanor criminal mischief, and the girl was so happy because she was going to get fired for criminal mischief, and it was shaky, right? And so just even handling that small stuff, that kind of gave me satisfaction, and quite honestly, I got into it because I was like, oh, I think I'm good at this, right?
Yeah.
I figured I was good at it, and it turns out I was. But the war story, it happened way, way later. My favorite one. There are actually two. There was one with a guy, I believe that he was in an apartment and he didn't know that certain narcotics were in the apartment. We went to trial on that one, and he had a history, and I had to put him on a stand, and I actually I hung the jury, and then he ended up getting he took a very favorable deferred on something like way less that he might have had culpability on, right?
Yeah.
And so that one was, and then I think my favorite one was actually pretty much right before I got arrested. A couple of weeks before that, I went to trial in Waller County, and I met a guy a couple of years ago, I guess a year before, and he called me and he said, "Hey man, I'm innocent of this, but I'm being accused of sexual assault, and I didn't do this." And I remember his story, and I was like, okay. And I remember going and eventually going to trial in Waller, and they charged 2 counts. And I just remember being out there, and I remember the cockiness of the DA's office. Mm-hmm. And I later found out they hadn't lost a trial in 8 years. I remember the judge came and pulled me to the side, and he was like, "Hey, you're my first acquittal," and he had been on the bench for 4 years. So that was my
2 counts, not guilty, not guilty.
NG, and like I said, it was the judge's first acquittal, and the judge was great, Gary Cheney. He was a great judge. Is a great judge.
Yeah.
And then the bailiff pulled me to the side, and the bailiff they were really, really nice, and he just said, "Man, it's been a long time."
Yeah.
And I heard it was about 8 years.
Good job, man.
So,
Great story.
That is awesome.
That's just awesome. I mean, saving lives. I mean,
Yeah.
we are in the business of saving lives, and you obviously are very passionate about that. You're very good at it. And then last year, you find yourself in a little bit of a pickle, and we want to hear your story. I mean, how does this even get started? I mean, what is kind of the defining moment where you're like, "Oh shit, this is happening"? Tell us about that.
So I was actually the day that I guess kicked everything off. I was at an 11B hearing in the 228th District Court.
An 11B hearing is someone who's in custody. You're trying to get reasonable bond set for them to see if they can come out and help you defend them.
Correct. So this former client now, obviously, he was charged with felony offenses. He picked up, new felony offenses.
Right.
And the state put a motion in to hold him at no bond. Okay. And so that happened. Now, based on the facts of the new felony offense, one was murder, right? I figured that I was going to have a very difficult time, at that 11B hearing.
Yeah.
And so that I was there and handling that. That's how this all started. So I remember being at the 11B hearing.
At the criminal courthouse.
The criminal courthouse. So I go to the criminal courthouse that day. I go to the criminal courthouse, and it's about 1:30 maybe, right? And so I go, and I come in, and I was like, shoot, the guy needed some medical records I was going to put on as exhibits because that was going to help me try to justify I was going to ask for house arrest, right? I was like, Judge Aguilar arrested soul. He's likely not going to let this guy out. I was going to ask for ankle monitors, 24-hour house arrest, just based on the totality of circumstances, facts.
Sure.
Vehicular crimes had the case. Connor Laster was the DA, and I had some experiences with her, and so I know she's a pretty zealous advocate, and I knew how she was going to fight it. And so I said, "Hey man, this is our shot to get you out. I think you're going to have to house arrest this thing." And because on the murder charge, not to get too deep in it, but the public information is that he was accused of murder because he was allegedly committed a felony while in commission of that felony. Crashes the car, friend dies, he almost dies.
Yeah.
Okay.
A felony murder charge.
Felony murder
as
charge.
We call it felony murder.
Correct.
So you're in this hearing,
You need those medical records.
I need the med records, so I'm going to use the med records strategically to say, I don't think the jail was properly caring for him.
Right.
And so I said, okay, well, you know what? Instead of him possibly being permanently disfigured or having a very tough life, judge, let him out, house arrest him. At least that helps me defend him, right? Sure. And then, he can get the proper medical treatment, the in-house, or just if he has to go, let him go to the hospital, let him go. And I was going to use that.
Yeah.
Right, to show that. That was my strategy pretty much.
It's a good strategy.
And I tried.
Because the jail doesn't want people in there. They're going to cost extra money, be extra security problems and all that because he was in a bad car accident that killed his friend, right? So he's injured from that accident.
Almost killed him.
And again, when you're in these situations and you're trying to prepare for this hearing and you're talking with your client, I think most people know, but for those who don't, they're in a separate holdover cell. They're behind glass. Communication is already limited, but you're you're trying to gather evidence that you can use to help your client. And then what happens after that?
Well, yeah, and interestingly enough, like we have to prepare. So I made the decision, a dangerous decision for a criminal defense attorney, to put him on a stand at the 11B hearing. We all know that gives a prosecutor a free shot at your guy. 9 times out of 10, we don't do it, right? You're not going to do that because an experienced prosecutor is going to be licking their chops and hammer him or her. So the proper thing to do, you have to, it's malpractice not to prep the hell out of your client if you're going to put them on 11B. But I made the decision because I was like, I don't put him up, he ain't getting out. Right? He's probably not getting out anyway. So the majority of the strategizing came from, okay, I was actually visiting with him through Securus video. I didn't even like going to the jail, which is ironic. I don't like going to the jail. Most of my clients are on bond, right? Because again, I don't do appointments. So it's very rare I'm at the Harris County Jail, right? And I only went to go see him in the Harris County Jail one time. Once. Everything else was secure. So when I was prepping him on video Securus every single time. And so I also had to prep his girlfriend because that is where he was going to be living. And at that point, I brought testimony out to say that she knew his medical needs and could assist with, you know, helping him out, moving around and stuff like that, right? So those were the 2 witnesses, the girlfriend and him. And so I'm preparing for that. And then, you know, eventually the hearing date has to come. Well, interestingly enough, the one time I went to the jail, he had been moved. So most people don't know, or some people don't know, especially if you don't do these visitations. At 701, if you have the Securus app, you can literally find your client, click them, and set it up. Well, if he's at 1200, they don't have that. They moved him from 701 to 1200. And so I remember, I'm like, man, I got to go see him because I got to let him know, you know, it's go time on this because the hearing had been moved and stuff like that. And I remember I looked him up on the app and he wasn't there. And I was like, damn, he went to 1200. The day I went to go visit him, and that was the day he alleged that he told me about this plan. I didn't plan on going to the jail that day, but I remember I needed to go over there, and I got out of the court early. And when I got out of the court early, I was like, let me shoot over, and then let me tell him, right? He had already been prepped. So I was like, hey, it's go time. So I go over there, tell him it's go time. I'm in there for about 5 minutes to leave. And we have the hearing, and I remember the day of the hearing, I go get the medical records. I'm back and forth running because I actually forgot the medical records. So I had to go get them printed out. So I went to the public defender's office. Great place, you know. They help you out, right?
And so printers. They have law libraries.
Shout out to our PD's office. We love our PD's office.
Shout out to PD's office.
We love working together.
Chief Draper.
So at that time, I'm like, crap, I forgot to print this stuff out. Let me run over to the PD's office. And very nice lady printed the medical records out for me. I come back, and when I come back in.
So you come back in with this big stack of
papers. Stack of papers, right? The girlfriend's already in the court. Now, remember, it's 1:30 on a random weekday. Court's pretty much empty. It's dead, right? And so right before the hearing started, and I asked Marvin, the coordinator, I said, hey, we're about to start. He's like, yeah, all right, cool. So I go to the side room, and I prep the girlfriend just to say, hey, do you remember what to say, what not to say? Like, let's go over testimony really, really quickly. And this is how it kicks off. As I'm in that little side room, I'm about to leave, and she says, hey, can you give him this? Right? And it's an envelope. I'll never forget it. And I feel the envelope is very, very thin, and it's paper. You can feel it's paper. But it's sealed. All right, whatever, So I have the stack of medical records, and I have the envelope. There are 2 ladies, at least I remember, in the audience at that point. Both really stood out to me, but I identified one as a cop pretty much right on, right? And I was like, what is this cop doing here? I'm thinking they have to get a warrant signed or something like that, right? But
judges, sometimes there's especially towards the end of docket, police officers will show up, detectives will show up, and they wait for the judge to have a minute, and they take a warrant, and the judge will sign like a search warrant or an arrest warrant.
Absolutely.
But you don't think anything of it at the time because...
You don't think they're there for you?
No, not at all.
Right, for your proceeding.
I see, now there's not a badge there, but come on, we do this
I know what you're talking about,
We know. So, but go back, and I say, hey, your girlfriend wants you to add this, but hey, you ready? It's go time. Let's go. And I'm already kind of flustered because I forgot his mail record. So I've been running around like a chicken with his head cut off. I'm not even thinking. I'm in auto mode.
Right.
And so I come out, and we literally have the 11B hearing. Now, what's interesting is I remember the one cop, they're still back there. And I'm like, why in the hell are they sitting here at 11B hearing? Because when Judge Aguilar didn't call this lady up,
Right.
I was like, You know, he would not have had an 11B hearing before he needs to just.
He would have taken care of one real quick.
Taken care of it. So I was like, she's here for him.
Right.
Right? I'm thinking this is probably somebody from Montgomery because there was some out-of-county stuff.
Okay.
And I'm like, there might, this might be some out-of-county person.
But at this point, you're thinking, again, this has nothing to do with you. You're just doing your job. You're defending your client. Your mind is focused on the one task ahead of you and not really anything else.
Trying to get him out, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then what happens?
So we have the hearing. I lose. Yeah.
Right.
And Judge Aguilar sets him a bond on the new case, I believe, and holds him no bond on the other one. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I remember bailiff said, hey, you want to go back there and talk to him? I was like, yeah. Hey, I just give him like a bit of advice because I know he heard bond for the new case. Hey, don't post this new bond because you're not going to get out. You're no bonded on. You understand that, right? Right. I leave. I go to Fort Bend County. As I'm on the way to Fort Bend County, I'll never forget it. I start getting calls from the girlfriend, but I don't remember if I answered, but I think there were some text messages there, and it was like, hey, they took the papers, right? And I'll never forget it. In the text messages, they were POA papers. That's what she tells me, right? In the text
Power of
message.
attorney?
Yep. Power
POA,
of attorney.
meaning power
Right.
of attorney.
Okay.
Now, this is the first time I've ever heard POA out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or something like that, or through text, right? And this is in text message. At this point, I really don't care about the papers because I'm like, okay, I don't give a damn. I have to go please somebody
Right.
in Fort Bend, and this particular judge in Fort Bend is very, like, they have slots, right?
Yeah.
And you need to be there, right?
Right.
And my client's an in custody person, and he's trying to get out of jail on a plea. I need to go handle this, right?
Yeah.
That's where my focus is. Boom, next job. Go, and then I don't call back. I think I said, hey, I'll call you back later or something like that. Maybe I can get on the phone. That day I don't call back. I think maybe the next day or the day after, because one of the texts said, hey, I think they broke his leg. I was like, that's odd, right? But I was like, let me reach out to see if they did kind of do something to his leg. It's probably not broken. Maybe I can go re-urge to the judge, hey, remember where I was arguing in the 11B? They're not properly taking care of him. Can we reconsider or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so when I call, I'll never forget the first thing the girl says out of her mouth is, I say, hey, is his leg okay? Yeah, but they took the papers. What about the papers? And so I can get kind of aggressive sometimes, or like, especially if I think I said, damn the papers or something like that. I was like, look, either give them some new ones, like mail them some, or go to, or bring, or take them to the jail. You know, give them some new papers.
Yeah. Who cares?
And this is when I knew something was up. She says, I'll never forget this. Go to jail. What if I get arrested? And then my spidey senses go up like, why in the hell would you get arrested if you go to the jail? When I go to the jail, I'm not worried about getting arrested.
Yeah.
Right?
And so you start to think that something's up.
Something is up.
Yeah.
You don't go mentally to
when
arrest.
does law enforcement get on the radar screen? That's what I want to know about.
When do you know the police are looking into this?
So on that call, I'm like, hey, what was on those papers, right? Now, remember, I've prepped this person a few times, and she was his point of contact on the outside world, so I talked to her significantly, like a lot. And when she started talking really, really fast and got flustered, she was like, nothing, they were special papers. I was like, what the hell does that mean? I was like, no. And so I got angry. And when I got angry, she got startled and scared, and she said, okay, well, the first two, she said it was 4 papers, but the first 2 papers were sprayed with K2. Well, now I know what the hell K2 is. I was like, wait a minute, what the hell?
Yeah.
What do you mean sprayed with K2? It's a drug.
Yeah.
And but I'm saying to Jason, so everything is coming in now, like, what the hell? So I'm like, wait a minute, the papers were sprayed with K2. I was like, you can put drugs on paper? I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, why in the hell wouldn't you tell me? Would you give me something and not tell me? And she said, plausible deniability. Who the fuck is the lawyer? I'm sorry. Who's the lawyer here? Plausible deniability, what are you talking about? No, you didn't tell me because you knew I wouldn't have passed it. I would have told you to go to hell.
Right.
And so now I'm like, that's why that cop was there.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking like, they took the papers. So they had to have known. There was a cop there. Now I know why the cop was there. And I'm asking myself, why in the hell wouldn't they pull me to the side and say, hey.
So, I mean, was this a sting operation? I mean, had they had some information that this was going to, I mean, they're there for a reason.
They did.
I mean, so we're sort of jumping ahead a little bit here, but during the discovery process, do we learn that this is part of a sting?
Yes.
And I guess they had been monitoring the phone calls, and so they knew this was going to go down. But of course, you're not mentioned on any of the phone calls as being a consciously participating this, knowing what's going on, right?
Not one.
Tell us what happens when you find out that they are going to pursue charges against you.
Well, at that point, and so when I found out, right, that day, I believe I emailed a colleague, not emailed, I Facebook messaged a colleague, and they hadn't responded. I'm like, the middle road of the sticks going, who do I call, what do I do, right? And, you know, you're gonna go to a trusted source to kind of navigate you through this. And I was like, man, I ran a couple of things by Vic, really good guy, we talked, you know what I'm saying, really, really good colleague. I said, let me call Vic.
Yeah, what was the background? I mean, you obviously had some history with Vic, so can you just give us a little bit of a snippet of what that was all about?
Oh, that's my guy, man. So I don't even know when me and Vic met, but it was always really good professionally and really good guy. I mean, we never would hang out outside of court work or something like that, but I mean, I would call him and like just bounce ideas off of him. I'd say, Jay, hey, Vic, what do you think about this or whatever? Or hey, Vic, I saw you in Brazoria, I need coverage or whatever. Or we would talk, and like a couple of times, he's like, hey, Jason, can you cover this for me? Just, you know, and I respected him as a lawyer.
So you reach out to Vic.
Reached out to Vic.
And what happens then?
I run it down, and we kind of talk, and I say, hey, there's an investigation here. There has to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, he was like, well, how do you know? And I broke it down. One, there's a cop there. A cop is not randomly sending an 11B hearing at 1:30.
Yeah.
And then they know exactly what they're looking for. I know they take the papers because they told it, right? And now I know drugs are on the papers. I mean, I'm a criminal defense attorney.
Right.
You look at that, you're investigating.
1 + 1 + 1 = 3. Yeah.
So he reaches out to the DA's office.
Absolutely.
And what happens in that? How does that go?
Well, I wasn't privy to that conversation. So he said he's going to reach out to the DA's office, which I thought was the right call, right? Hey, I didn't know, let the DA's office know what's going on.
I was an unwitting pawn in this scheme.
Yeah.
I want to tell you right now.
I want to tell
what happened.
you what's going on. I just got this information. As soon as I got the information, use your lawyer or your friend that's a lawyer to go give that information to them.
Yeah.
So they'll have it, right? Simple, right? So at some point I'm thinking, okay, maybe they want to talk to me, right? So I'm ready. One day I go to court, I'm in the 208 trying to go see a client, and I remember, the 180th. Trying to see a client, and bailiff comes and says, hey, counsel, can I talk to you for a second? And all right, I go to the back, and then he says, come around the corner. And when he told me to come around the corner, I was like, this is odd. And sat on the bench, cut my leg. Wow. Said, wait here.
How'd that feel?
They tell you like you have a warrant for you?
He didn't say, he said, I don't know what's going on, but he was confused too. He didn't know. He was just told to arrest me.
By who?
Great question. I think either, I would believe the Harris County Sheriff's investigators.
They had obviously gotten a warrant.
They got a warrant.
And they had gotten a warrant. They had presented it to a judge. Judge finds probable cause, issues a warrant for
Correct.
your arrest. And, so many times we see our clients go through these experiences, and yet here you are.
At court.
What's that feel like?
Wow.
We see it, but what is it like to be in that situation?
You're confused as hell. What is going on, right? I'm here to work, and now I'm chained to a bench, right? And I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? He says, I don't know. And I remember.
Do you get to make a phone call? Do you get to call Vic or do anything like that?
No. So I'm sitting there. They don't let me call, and they've already taken my devices, right? Well, one device was my daughter's iPad, right? Because I guess a couple of weeks or sometime before, I lost a phone, right? And a computer as well. Sometimes I lose things. It's part of one of the conditions I have.
I've done it.
Yeah, so I remember coming out that day, and I would bring the iPad sometimes to court because it was easier. I didn't have my own. It was easier for me to navigate through or whatever, right? And she couldn't have the
Well, you
iPad.
use your, to look at your case information.
Yeah, I would send an email or
filings,
something like
etc.
that. Yeah, but that's just it. Use the internet on it, right?
So they seize you got your bag in the courtroom.
Correct.
You set your bag down because you're moving around, you're going back and talking to your client, you're going and talking to the prosecutor.
Correct.
And then bailiff says, come in the back, the cuffs come on, they're seizing your bag with all of your devices in it. You don't get to make a phone call.
Nope.
And you're getting booked into the Harris County Jail.
Yep. And next time I go, and one of the bailiffs, you can just tell by, like, people start being nasty to you. One of the bailiffs was nice, but somebody was, like, really nasty. I'm like, what is going on? And you're asking, hey, what am I being charged with? What am I being charged with? What am I being charged with?
No one's telling you anything.
No, and somebody said finally providing jails, prohibited substance in a prison.
In a correctional facility.
Is this when you're still at the holdover at the jail?
I didn't
This is
sign
when
out
you,
until I got down.
and then they take you down that back elevator,
Correct.
and then down like the tunnel across the bayou, and then
Correct.
into the bottom of the jail.
Correct. I'm getting processed in, man. Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting
The
processed.
whole time you're on the bench in the 180th and the elevator in the courthouse and walking down, no one has told you what you're charged with?
Nobody has told me anything. I'm sitting here literally like, what is
To this
going
day, you don't know who told that bailiff, go get Jason and put him on that bench and put handcuffs on him.
I don't know if that came from the sheriff's office or the district attorney's office. To this day, I don't know.
I would, but a civil suit might help you find that out,
A
right?
lot's gonna get found with civil suit.
Well, we won't go there yet. I want to go through.
I have so many problems with this. So what do they want your devices for? They want to, like, because presumably if they want to look at communications between you and your clients and who are incarcerated and they can't get it through their own monitored system, then they want your privileged communications with your clients. Like,
That was a big deal, and I addressed that. But supposedly,
how can taking your devices have anything? What search warrant allow them to take your cell phone devices, your computers, when you're accused of using the old school thing that we're supposed to get away from, paper, to do
Right.
this crime?
Exactly.
Like, I'm getting
they
really
didn't have
angry.
any.
You go ahead, Brent.
No, that's okay. Did they have any evidence that you were using the phones or your devices to perpetrate?
Who signed the warrant? Sorry. Oh my God.
Justin's about
I'm
to
really
have a heart
getting
attack
angry.
over
I
here.
think Judge Velasquez signed the warrant.
Okay.
Tell us what it's like when you go in front of the judge. When is it that you actually see a judge? Do you see the magistrate judge? Then
She signed an apology card later on, like, sorry, there wasn't really probable cause.
Nobody's apologized.
Sorry, it's a rhetorical question.
Right.
I'm angry. Like that.
I'm pissed. So
Tell us what it's like when you go in front of the judge.
there's a clip of that. I knew something was up when I see people out and getting processed in, but everywhere I go, I'm being escorted and I'm being separated. And finally, they put me in this little back, and I noticed the people who were coming back there were disturbing, and they were like, I guess if you cause too much trouble, they leave you alone. I'm like, I haven't been, doing anything. I've been cool, or just confused. And so I asked one of the jailers, and they said, well, we have to put you back here because your case made the media. So I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
The media. And I go in front of the judge, and I remember, okay, well, they asked me, do I want a public defender for my bail? I was like, I know the bail factors. I recite them day in and day out. I'm good, right? And so I go down there, and I remember the judge, asking and for PC, and that's the first time I'm hearing what's going on.
Yeah.
And you're hearing this, and you're like, what the
PC,
hell?
again, for our non-lawyer viewers,
Correct.
that's the probable cause. I mean, that's when you're hearing the basis for what the charge is. And you're hearing this, what's going through your mind at that point?
And I curse a lot, I'm sorry, especially when I'm, bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. You hear it, you're hearing what the prosecutors are in, and you're like, bullshit. This is the first time I'm hearing what's going on.
Yeah.
Remember? And so I'm waiting on PC. I'm like, what the hell?
That's what y'all got?
We hear our clients say
Right.
that, right? Our clients are telling, man, I heard what they said is bullshit.
Yeah.
And then to be in that situation, I'm sure you get it. You understand.
Powerless. Like, you had to feel totally powerless.
Especially when I wasn't even able to present my own bail factors. The judge said, no, I don't want you to say anything about your case. So I tried to tell her, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm an experienced one. I'm not going to say anything about guilt, innocence, or any factual about the case. I'm going to address the bail factors that y'all were talking about. Like,
Yeah.
bail is to secure your presence in court and danger to the community, safety of the community, right? I want to talk about
I
this.
got you, Judge. Let's talk.
Yeah. And so she says no, and then she ends up giving me a $100,000 bond and 24-hour house arrest, which the state asked for a curfew, and she 24-hour house arrested me.
Wow.
Which magistrate was that?
I don't know the
We'll
lady.
check on that and
Yeah,
get that back
check.
up.
Yeah. You eventually get in front of Judge Warren, who has the
Brian Warren, the
cases.
209th.
Brian Warren, and he reduces the bond, right?
Right.
Okay. And Vic helps you with that, or Vic is representing you at that point?
At that point, and so I hadn't talked to Vic, remember?
Okay.
I hadn't talked to Vic. And so I remember being brought up in the holdover because it was hard getting on the phone because I was a high profile inmate. They locked me away for 23 hours by myself, and I only had 1 hour a
Make
day.
the phone.
Right? And so because of processing, I missed a day. So Vic thought I was going to be at court that next day. It took 2 days. So while the news is spinning all this stuff, you know, I'm 23-hour lockdown.
Yeah.
Right?
Jesus.
I get up there.
As an actually innocent person. As an
Exactly.
actually innocent
an
person.
actually innocent person.
What is Judge? So we know that Judge Warren reduces the bond down
Correct.
to 45,000. Is that
40.
right? 40,000. What does he? But does he have you under the same bond conditions? Or
Absolutely not. He cuts them. And I remember just praying because I'm a religious man. I said, Lord, you know, because I had a couple of colleagues helping me on the outside, just kind of seeing what was going on. I remember I was like, Lord, give me a judge that is impartial, that's going to call a ball,
Yep.
balls and strikes, and not a prosecutor from the bench.
And that is-
And when I heard 209, I was like,
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank
Prayers are answered.
Judge Warren following the law,
That's what I
not using bail as an instrument of oppression, not putting onerous conditions that are unnecessary. And so you get out on bond, and you're out on bond for a little bit, and then here comes the prosecutors with some new charges.
Yeah. So I actually, even after being charged, I talked to the state. I talked to the state. I started prepping my own defense. And I
You
was
tell your clients to do that?
hell no.
Okay, all right. Just
Hell
that's
no.
still your advice to your clients.
No,
right?
no, please don't do that.
Unless you have a law license, maybe then don't do it even. But
An experienced criminal attorney that can think about this statement can be used this way down the road. You're doing this with a good basis and understanding of what the law is. And so you make this decision, which we sometimes do. We let our
Yeah.
clients talk with the police when we feel like it is in their best interest. You talk with them. How does that go?
I noticed that none of the sheriff's office investigators who had so much to say about me were present. No DA was present. There were 2 investigators, and I was like, that's odd because they don't seem pretty interested in what I have to say. But I was like, I knew at some point that was going to give somebody some leeway to say, well, if he would have told us, talk
right,
to us,
right.
we wouldn't even went this far. Okay, so here it is.
here's your chance.
There it is.
You get all the evidence, you all start going through the evidence, and I mean, to take us through now that you're out on bond, you're seeing the evidence and you're seeing that tell us what can you tell us about it?
I saw some of the most egregious things I've ever seen in my practice.
Elaborate on that.
So initially, Harris County investigators, I think one was Hidalgo, one was Sanchez, one was Torres, sheriff's deputies. These is not HPD. And when they go to the girlfriend, they specifically ask her, and remember when I told you, like, we were on the phone and I knew something was up with the papers because she started to fluster? That same voice. I know that voice. She's flustered, but the cops are on her, right? And I remember them saying, hey, did Jason know? And what? No, no, I don't know. That was what she said. Not,
That's
yeah,
what got you in? That's what got you sucked into this?
Yeah, I'm like,
That's
well,
ridiculous.
they asked her from jump.
Yeah.
Right? And no, her first statement was no. And then, I don't know. And then you hear, well, we know he had to do something. He's an attorney. He's the one making all the money. We want the big fish. The prosecutor doesn't even want to charge you. This is on recording, right? Telling her basically, hey, say something against him.
So you don't get charged.
Yes. She said the prosecutor does not want to charge you, right? Now, they don't say which prosecutor that is. It was some prosecutor that they had just got married and she was buying a house around that time. So I guess we'll figure that out, which prosecutor had pretty much made a promise or told the DA's office or told the sheriff's office, hey, tell her I don't want to charge her, right?
Wow.
Okay.
And that doesn't happen. I mean, federal cases, but not in state cases.
state
That's really, yeah. So you see the evidence you all are obviously trying to convince the prosecutors, look, I'm innocent. I didn't do this. And between you and Vic and then D'Angelo comes in. And I want to touch on that really quick. We're getting a little bit short on time. How are the prosecutors responding to what you all are trying to show them, the evidence of your innocence?
The behavior of Kimberly Smith, in my opinion, was egregious. Right after, I'm sorry, he's delivering drugs to the jail, he's this. I mean, she sensationalized this from jump, right? And then when you look at the evidence, and it's so weak, it's so, like, I'm not there, or like, there's nothing really connecting me to this besides the actual passing. And I came through Vic to the DA's office and said, hey, let's, we brought this to y'all. Like,
and let's get this out there and make it very clear, okay? Everyone is like, but he did it, he passed the drugs. The law requires that you have to know that you are passing drugs, and you obviously
intend to do so.
And you intend to, and you obviously never had any idea that this little thin envelope
Exactly.
is
Laced.
dipped and laced with drugs.
Yeah.
And so obviously the prosecutor is not relenting, and she's pushing and she's pushing, and then the case gets set for trial. And tell us what that's like to, know that you're going to have to put your fate in the hands of 12 jurors.
That was a little easier. I always have been an advocate for clients and said, hey, if you did not do this, do not plead, right? Trust legal counsel, trust, and I understand, you might have to make some determinations. We'll go down, we'll see the facts in this, but, stand on your innocence, and then let's go through and let's talk about the ins and outs, do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty easy for me. I knew I didn't do it. They were going to have to go prove it.
And again, having tried cases in one cases, it's a little bit different. So you didn't have really any fear about the process. You felt like you were going to be vindicated at the end of the day.
I knew I was going to go tell the truth, and the facts were going to come out, and then we were confident about the evidence, and the jury of my peers were going to make my determination.
So you're in the lead up, going to trial, and you have Vic representing you, and then something happens, and D'Angelo's got to step in. Can you please tell us what happens here?
So now after about a year or so, we're like, hey, let's go ahead and sit. It's time. Mm-hmm. They had made this offer the day we tried to sit. Hey, we'll throw out, the child porn case.
They knew that, from what Vic told me, they knew that the child porn case was weak.
Ridiculous.
Apparently something had gotten downloaded by your daughter was, what was it? She was on the internet and she got
worse
some
than that.
malware.
Like, not for him. Like, it's another tragedy within this whole thing.
Correct. So my daughter, parents out there, beware of Roblox.
Yeah.
There's an online game called Roblox. At that point, I didn't know that there was a chat system on Roblox.
Yeah.
And so there's a chat system, and somebody pretended
Blocked
to be,
on my kids. They don't use that. Yeah.
So I didn't know that there's a man, and he ended up being 42 years old, out of state, pretended to be a child, and coerced my daughter into photos.
So the photos were of your daughter.
Of my own child. There were
And the allegation by the state is that you possess those with the intent for your own sexual gratification. Like, I don't even understand how. Oh man, the anger.
And so
I was pissed.
So So you get charged, and then they figure out that what really happened is that she had basically been
a victim,
targeted by this
grown man,
online predator.
I think they knew before they gave me the charges.
Wow.
Of course they did.
I think they knew before.
They had to find all the stuff from the Roblox with the pic, like.
And then
shame on them.
But then they eventually back off on that, though, right? What Vic told me is that they weren't going to pursue that. They were just more interested about the drug case. And so go tell us how Vic gets out and D'Angelo has to come
But
in.
they charged you with all these. They presented all of them to a grand jury, and they get secured indictments against you in all these.
Absolutely. And then Kim Smith told the people of Houston that I disguised it as a child's iPad to hide.
Oh my God.
Photos.
Yeah, I hope she's named in.
Yeah.
D'Angelo comes in.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
We got to give
Sorry.
him some due. How does he get swapped in?
D'Angelo was actually on the case. D'Angelo came to me pretty early on and said, hey, I can assist. So he got on several months even before they took Vic off.
Okay.
So Vic got off. So D'Angelo's great. He came in and said, hey, I want to help. And he's a great lawyer. I said, man, I need all the help I can get. Come on. So maybe in like November or something like that, D'Angelo was in. He was in 2024.
But then Vic has to step down because
the DA's office comes in and says, hey, we're going to call Vic as a witness. Remember the phone call I made?
Yeah.
To Vic, you know, asking for legal advice.
Yeah.
Right, because I see what was going on. They
I
said
guess
that
there's no attorney-client privilege there. Oh my goodness, what a sham.
Is this all under Kim Ogg's office or Sean Tier's office?
I don't know when that decision was made, and we were told of that decision when we were going to set for trial. So I don't know if they made the decision and they clandestinely wait till he sets for trial, and then we're going to last second pull the rug on Vic. But that happened.
But it happened under Sean Tier. Is that right? Okay.
Just because we're running out of time,
I know. Sorry.
you're leading up to trial, and then you find out that they're dropping the charges.
Yeah.
And take us what that feeling is like when you learn that this is going to finally end for you.
So I ended up, when Vic got off, I filed a motion to a notice of appearance. Judge Warren asked me questions. He said, "You're a lawyer, you can come on." So I did that, and at this point, I'm noticing something's not right. I'm missing, like, something's not off. And I later found out, after sending a specific 3914 to the DA's office, Kim Smith saying, "Oh, well, some stuff was missing." So I'm doing a motion to exclude under Heath, right? And as I'm doing this, I'm like, I need an email. So I go in the email, I finish my motion to exclude, I go in the email, and I look for the Kim Smith email, and when I type her name in, I see an email to Judge Warren dismissing all 4 cases.
Wow.
And it's over, and you've got your freedom back, and your life's back, but is it? I mean, how does it feel now?
How long has that been?
How long has it been?
Yeah, when was that?
Oh, so I got the email last Friday, and it was a long weekend, so like,
It's not even been a week yet.
it hasn't even been a week. And then we called a press conference on Tuesday, and it's all fresh. It's all
Yeah.
fresh.
I saw y'all across the street doing that. I'm glad you did that.
It's-
I'm glad.
I gotta put it out there because they put horrible things about me out there, you know.
Again, I mean, just another incredible story about how an innocent person gets charged. They have to pay a tremendous amount of money to bond out. You got to hire attorneys. You got to live with this hanging over your shoulder. I'm sure it's impacting your business. And then the DAs are like, "Okay, we're dropping it.
Yeah, just
Have your life back. Go back to."
They didn't even
normal."
tell you. They told the judge.
Well, they tagged
CC'd you
me.
in
They
there.
CC'd me on the
yeah,
email.
thanks for the CC.
And they
about-
didn't tell the public, right? So they don't say my bad. They just
Yeah.
Listen, Jason, I mean, it's an incredible story. We wish you the very best moving
you.
forward in putting this whole episode behind you and coming on the show. And
We want to hear more about this because you have more to do, right?
Yeah.
You're not done with this.
Yeah.
we'll bring
You come
back.
talk to us about it some more?
absolutely. And then
Thank you.
The other 2 are still not charged.
So hopefully, we'll bring you back here. We have another big story going on. Judge Deshaun Jones is stepping down from the
down.
bench. Hope to have him on a future episode. But thank you all so much. Thank you, Jason, for joining
Thanks
us.
a lot.
Good night, and thanks again for watching Reasonable Doubt.
Thank you.
Good a second.